I started out as an industrial engineer for General Motors after I got out of college, and after a period of time of doing that, I went to a consulting firm in Chicago, and we work with clients to help them prepare, do strategic planning and prepare for rate cases in the public utilities area. I then started my own consulting firm and worked with a lot of companies in implementing and developing the documentation for the quality management system standards like ISO 9001. Because of the idea of continual improvement within those standards, I got involved with the continual improvement things and got my master black belt, and now I'm doing a lot of consultation and training through Kent State with customers on continual improvement training, Lean Six Sigma, and actually consulting with them to help them develop and implement Lean Six Sigma continual improvement processes.
Like John, my formal education is industrial engineering, and I recently retired from Eaton Corporation with 20 years of experience implementing Lean. And while at Eaton, my director was from Toyota, so I learned firsthand the Toyota tools and techniques.
Probably in the simplest matter, it's the systematic elimination of waste. You're going to look at processes and you're going to say, you know, what things are value added to the customer, those things that are not are considered waste. And Lean is looking at saying, how can we get rid of the waste so that we can deliver value for the customer? And a direct result of that is going to be velocity. As you get rid of waste in your processes, you increase the velocity of your process. You can deliver products and services quicker to your customers.
And to add to that, what John has said about what the definition of Lean is, the important thing is that you involve the people that are in that process in eliminating that waste.
I would say, you know, if you look at Lean and Lean Six Sigma, you know, that stuff kind of started quite a few years ago in manufacturing, but it's really kind of focused on how do I improve processes? And if you look at almost any industry or any company or organization, they all have processes. So when you look at the concepts and the methodologies and the roadmaps of Lean and Six Sigma, you're looking and saying, how am I going to improve processes? So as we move into different industries like healthcare and education, transactional types of companies like banks and stuff like that, they all have processes. And the idea that we're going to improve these processes is the same. The language may change in terms of how they look at things and what they call things, but the whole idea of the Lean Six Sigma techniques and methodologies and the roadmaps that we follow are the same. And we have had success in applying it in many different industries and had seen great results.
Just to add to what John said, from a historical perspective, the automotive and aerospace began their Lean journeys in the mid-'80s. The healthcare began their Lean journey in the 2002. And John and I are very happy working with a lot of public sector organizations because it's finally getting into the city governments. And as John said, the process improvements is really key to making those efficiency kinds of improvements.
We've been doing a lot in the healthcare in the last 2 to 3 years. Specifically, we've been working with university hospitals in Cleveland and Akron General in Akron. And they've embraced the whole idea of using the Lean Six Sigma techniques and methodologies and roadmaps to actually affect continual improvement. And so we found that it's been working very well in that industry. And as John just mentioned, you know, in the public sector, we started doing a lot of training in the basics of Lean so that they can apply them within their public sector organizations. We've worked with people like the City of Twinsburg, City of Euclid, City of Coshocton. I know we've worked with the Summit Area Regional Transportation Authority. There's going to be the Portage and Summit County Departments of Jobs and Family Services. So there's been quite a few that we've gotten involved in. In chemical industry, I know I did some work with Performance Products. And we also did some work with L'Oreal. So, you know, if you look at some of the industries that we've been in addition to manufacturing, it's been quite extensive. I would say that you probably have to start with some kind of commitment from the leadership group of the organization. They have to be on board and have to kind of support it. And I think from their perspective, they have to be able to answer two questions. Number one, why is this important to the organization? And number two, why is it important to the employees? Because even if I have leadership commitment, but I don't have buy-in from the people that work at the organization, it's going to be very difficult to make this work. By the same token, if I don't have the buy-in from the leadership, I'm going to have a difficult time making it work. So I think you have to start with the commitment level at the top. You have to make this kind of a strategic initiative. What strategic objectives am I going to have that focus on continual improvement and process improvement? And once I get that, and I get the buy-in from the rest of the organization, and that's why I have to answer those two questions, I think you've started the journey. And the one thing that you will find out is that when you talk about Lean or Six Sigma, we're talking about culture change. And we can do all the tools and stuff that we want to try to affect improvement, but if we can't change the culture of the organization, it's going to be very difficult to get things really up and running.
And to add to that, as I mentioned earlier, John and our approach is to involve people, all the people that work the process, that touch processes. And there's a saying that John and I follow, and it says that change is exciting when it's done by us, and it's threatening when it's done to us. So you're going to need the people.
So
you're going to need people to be involved, because then you have a real good chance of sustaining those improvements. If they're not involved on the front end, then you won't get them to sustain the improvements.
When we look at the Lean Six, some of the Lean Six Sigma classes, we have our green belt, black belt, and master black belt. I believe that the latest I heard was that the investment that people make just to go to that class, they have a 28-to-1 return on the investment in the class. And recently with some of the healthcare stuff we've been doing, we've got reports back from them that they are realizing a over 20-to-1 return on investment relative to what they're investing in getting people trained and how to use these tools and methodologies in terms of what they're getting in savings at the back end. When you look at Lean, a lot of times you hear about tools. There's these tools that we use, 5S, continuous flow, quick change. All these are tools. And we take the tools and we put them in the context of a Kaizen event. And a Kaizen event is a methodology for deploying tools. And so when we look at Kaizen events, we look at it and say, okay, how are we going to execute continual improvement activities using Kaizen events? And we approach it from three perspectives. One, what do we have to do ahead of time? What's the preparation, the pre-planning that we have to do? Second would be, how do we execute the actual Kaizen event? Usually it's a 3 to 5 day event that we do. How do we execute that based upon our plan? And thirdly, we look at follow-up. What do we have to do to follow up to make sure we sustain the gains we gained from the Kaizen event? So a Kaizen event maybe sounds like it's a 3 to 5 day thing, but really it's quite a lot longer than that when you look at the preparation and the follow-up that comes from that. And in the Lean Kaizen series, we have 5 modules that are 1 day each, and one of them is the fundamentals of Lean Kaizen, where we talk about the basics of running Kaizen events. Now, then the second one is our value stream mapping Kaizen event, how you would do value stream mapping, and I think John could probably talk to you about how that's like a strategic tool. And then we have some more tactical tools that we use, and that would be the 5S plus, the quick changeover, and continuous flow. As I said, we try to do this all in the context of doing a Kaizen event, which is a methodology for improvement that involves teams and gets people together in a relatively short periods of time to affect improvements in their processes.
Those of you that are looking at the video that John and I are just making right now, you probably have heard of value stream mapping. As John said, value stream mapping is the gateway to improvements. It's a strategic tool. In a lot of companies and others that we have been working with don't realize the power of that value stream map. So usually you get your leadership of an organization to figure out what has to happen, what kind of things have to happen. The Kaizen events that John and I, the 1 day events that we offer through Kent State, those are the tactical, those are the how do you do it. So it's a real good combination of leadership, because we've always talked about how do you involve leaders, how do you involve some of your senior level people. That's in the value stream map. That's the strategic part of this lean journey. Then the technical tools are how do you do it, and that's where we offer the one-day program. So it's been working very well for us if we go after it in that type of approach.